It's Friday night. You just got paid, and for a split second, looking at that direct deposit feels great. But then you open your banking app and reality hits. By the time the rent is cleared, the car payment is gone, and you've covered that skyrocketing grocery bill, there's basically nothing left. You're making $60,000 a year. That's $5,000 a month. In most parts of the world, you'd be living like royalty. But here in America, you feel like you're drowning in a bathtub with 2 inches of water. You're doing everything right, yet you're perpetually stuck in this cycle of being broke adjacent. Here's the thing that nobody wants to tell you, and it's going to hurt a little bit. Making $60,000 a year in the modern American economy is actually the most dangerous financial position you can be in. It's the dead zone. It's just enough money to qualify for the lifestyle that keeps you poor, but not enough to actually buy your freedom. If you don't change how you look at that paycheck in the next 10 minutes, you are going to spend the next 40 years working just to fund someone else's retirement while yours remains a pipe dream. Look, the math on a $60,000 salary is a trap. Most people think their problem is that they don't earn enough, but I'm going to show you why earning more might actually make your situation worse if you don't fix the underlying American tax first. We've been fed this lie about the American dream, the house, the new SUV, the latest iPhone, and we've been told that 60 grand is the entry fee. But when you factor in the silent killers that I'm going to break down for you, that 60,000 actually shrinks into a number that would shock you. We're going to talk about the invisible 20% that most people ignore until it's too late. If you can master that one concept, you'll stop being a slave to your cubicle. If you don't, well, you're just a high-functioning volunteer for the bank. Listen, the first reason you're broke isn't because you're buying too many lattes. I hate that advice. It's condescending and it's wrong. The real reason you're broke is because of the big three expenses that the IRS and the banks have designed to stay invisible. First, let's talk about the tax man. When you see $60,000 on your offer letter, you aren't actually making $60,000. After federal income tax, Social Security, and Medicare, you're already down to maybe $48,000. Then, if you live in a state with income tax, shave off another 3 grand. You haven't even paid for a loaf of bread yet, and 20% of your life energy has been harvested by the government. But here is where the trap snaps shut, the middle-class squeeze. At $60,000, you're in this weird limbo. You make too much to qualify for any government assistance or subsidies, but you make too little to afford the high-end tax loopholes that the wealthy use to keep their cash. You are the primary funding source for the entire country, and you're feeling the weight of it every single day. Then comes the second silent killer, lifestyle creep's evil twin, which I call the standard of living tax. In America, we don't just buy a car, we buy a statement. The average car payment in this country has ballooned to over $700 a month. Think about that. On a $60,000 salary, you are spending nearly 20% of your take-home pay on a piece of metal that loses value every time you turn the key. You're literally working 2 days out of every week just to pay for the machine that moves you from your house to the job you hate. It's a closed loop of insanity. You see your neighbor get the new Ford F-150 or the Tesla, and your brain tells you that's the standard. So you sign a 72-month loan at 7% interest, and just like that, you've traded your future freedom for a backup camera and heated seats. And let's be real about the housing situation. We've been told that renting is throwing money away, so people on a $60,000 salary stretch themselves to buy a house they can't afford with a 3% down payment. Now, you're not just paying a mortgage, you're paying private mortgage insurance, property taxes that go up every year, and the Home Depot tax, where every weekend is spent fixing a leaky pipe or a dying water heater. By the time you're done, your investment is actually a giant vacuum cleaner sucking the marrow out of your bank account. Now, I promised you a secret, and here it is. The reason you feel broke isn't because of what you spend, it's because of your velocity of wealth. Most Americans have a wealth velocity of 0. Money comes in, and it immediately stops. It goes into a bill, it goes into a debt, it goes into a depreciating asset. It dies. To get out of the $60,000 trap, you have to turn your money into a soldier that goes out and fights to bring back more money. But you can't do that if your credit score is your only financial metric. Stop obsessing over your credit score. The bank wants you to have a high credit score so they can lend you more money to stay in debt. An 800 credit score is just a gold star from a lender saying, "This person is great at paying us interest." It doesn't mean you're wealthy. It means you're a good customer. You need to start obsessing over your net worth instead. Your net worth is the only number that actually matters. If your car is worth $20,000 but you owe $25,000, that's a $5,000 hole in your life. If you have $10,000 in a 401k but $15,000 in credit card debt at 24% interest, you aren't an investor, you're a math victim. Here is the shock value truth. Inflation is hitting the $60,000 earner harder than anyone else. When eggs go up by 50%, the guy making $500,000 doesn't notice. But for you, that's your gas money. That's your fun money. You are being squeezed by a system that devalues your currency while your salary stays stagnant. If you got a 3% raise last year but inflation was 6%, you didn't get a raise. You got a 3% pay cut. You are working harder for less purchasing power, and the only way to win a rigged game is to stop playing by their rules. So, how do we fix this? How do you take a $60,000 salary and turn it into a foundation for actual wealth? First, you have to perform a financial autopsy. You need to look at your bank statements for the last 3 months and be brutally honest. Every subscription you don't use, every meal out that you didn't even enjoy that much, every small purchase on Amazon, it's all a leak in your boat. You can't reach the shore if you're too busy bailing out water. You need to implement the anti-budget. Don't track every penny. It's exhausting and you'll quit after 2 weeks. Instead, pay yourself first. The second that check hits, before the landlord, before the electric company, and definitely before Netflix, you take 10% and put it into an account you can't easily touch. If you can't live on $54,000 a year, you aren't going to magically be happy on $60,000. That 10% is your freedom fund. It's not for emergencies. That's what a separate 3-month cushion is for. The freedom fund is for buying assets. We're talking about Roth IRAs. We're talking about low-cost index funds like the S&P 500. You need to understand the power of compound interest. If you're 30 years old and you can just scrape together $500 a month to invest, by the time you're 65, you're looking at over $1 million. That's the difference between being a broke $60,000 earner and a wealthy one. The wealthy one understands that time is a more powerful currency than the dollar. But you have to be aggressive. You have to kill the high-interest debt like it's a fire in your kitchen. If you have credit card debt at 20% interest, there is no investment on earth that is going to beat that. You are bleeding out. Use the debt snowball or the debt avalanche. I don't care which, just stop the bleeding. Look, the American dream has been rebranded as American consumption, and that's why you're broke. They want you to stay in the $60,000 lane because you're the perfect consumer. You make enough to buy the stuff, but not enough to buy the time. But you're watching this because you want more than just stuff. You want the ability to say no. To say no to a boss you don't respect, no to a job that stresses you out, and no to a life lived in increments of 2-week paychecks. The transition from broke American to wealthy American starts with a psychological shift. You have to stop viewing your salary as your spending limit and start viewing it as your seed capital. Every dollar is a seed. You can either eat the seed or you can plant it. If you eat it, you're full for an hour. If you plant it, eventually you'll have an orchard that feeds you forever. The government isn't going to fix inflation for you, and your company isn't going to give you a 50% raise out of the goodness of their heart. You are the only person responsible for your financial rescue. It starts today. Not next month, not after your next bonus. Today. Go look at your debt. Look at your invisible 20% and decide that you are done being a statistic. Take that first $100, put it into a high-yield savings account or your 401k, and start the engine. You have the power to break the cycle, but only if you have the courage to live differently than everyone else. If you want what most people don't have, you have to do what most people won't do. Stop being the person who stays broke on 60 grand. Start being the person who built a legacy on it.